How about that? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Now, can you hear me? Sorry, guys. Hold on, hold on. I think you should hear me now. You got me now? There's a delay. Now, can you hear me? All right. Okay. All right. So y'all have heard nothing, Robert. Is that right? Is this true? Okay. All right. So yeah, the first introduction y'all didn't say anything. Okay. Let me go through it again. It'll be much better this time, I can assure you. All right, we're going to go through the particulars of the trade. And then after that, I'll go through each roster. All right. So Phoenix gets Satu Sabli, Kalani Brown, and Uzon. That's what Phoenix gets. So Dallas gets rid of them, obviously. The Fever gets Sophie Cunningham and the 19th pick from Phoenix. And Dallas, they get Nalissa Smith and they get the eighth pick from Indy. So that's the particulars of the trade. All right. As well, if you're not aware, I think everybody must be aware that yeah, basically Indy is also signed Natasha Howard. All right. So let's take a look at Indy's. I think Indy's the big loser in this trade. I don't know what the Fever are trying to do because I'm looking at their roster right now. They've got Katie Lou Samuelson, Demarius Dantas, Lexi Hull, Christy Wallace, Grace Berger, Caitlin Clark, obviously she can play, Victoria Saxton, Sophie Cunningham. They've re-signed Kelsey Mitchell, and they have Aaliyah Boston and Natasha Howard. And the thing with Indy is just that defense. Their defense was terrible last season. Was terrible. And now what do? They add Sophie Cunningham. I know what they're thinking there. Sophie will be able to shoot, will space teams out, but they're not going to be able to guard anybody with Cunningham. Like they need a forward that can move. Lexi Hull, like she's like a carbon copy pretty much of Lexi Hull. I don't understand having both of those players on the team. Uh, yeah, I said that about the GM when they brought her in. I don't know. She's come back from the management side of the Pacers, and I was like, ooh, we'll have to see how that works. They crushed and got rid of Lynn Dunn, but this lineup with Kelsey Mitchell, she can't play defense. Uh, and people think I'm a hater on Caitlin Clark. Yeah, she has steals, but their perimeter defense was awful. So they've got Clark on the perimeter, they've got Mitchell on the perimeter, they've got Cunningham potentially coming off the bench, Aaliyah Boston, and Natasha Howard. Natasha Howard comes from Dallas. Their defense was terrible last year. Was terrible. I don't know what these teams think. And then Katie Lou Samuelson was awful last year as well. Like no idea what they're doing. All right. Dallas. All right. Dallas is making the best out of a bad situation. So basically, as I said in the trade, they get Nalissa Smith. Fine with me. Why not take another chance and see if she finally figures it out? I don't have a lot of hope, but give her playing time, see what happens. That's making the best out of a bad situation. As well, they get the eighth pick. Why not? Because it looks like you are on a full rebuild, Dallas. So you have Ariki Agumawale, you've got McCowan, you've got Segrist, Maddie Segrist, Lou Lopez Seneschal, who couldn't get off the bench. You've got J.C. Sheldon, Jalen Brown, and as well Nalissa Smith. All right, so and then they'll fill it in with free agency and the two draft picks, I assume. But for them, I guess they've gotten off Brown's contract. I didn't mind Uzon for her first year, and obviously Sably wanted out there. I mean, basically, Kurt Miller's doing the best he can, I would say. Yeah, that's the thing, Robert. I agree with you right there. Nalissa Smith, if she develops, why not? You're gonna be a turkey next year anyway. I mean, if I wonder because Greg Bibbs there and now Kurt's running it essentially. I wonder if they're going to go the full on tank and try to get Juju Watkins because you probably be able to sell that to Bibb because we know Bibb loves himself draft choices. Maybe they're going the full on tank and let's bring in Juju. I am not sure. So that'd be interesting as well. Yeah, did Dallas get Ty Harris? Did they put Ty Harris in that trade? I didn't see that in my notes. But they threw Ty Harris in that trade, did they? Because I'll go through Phoenix's lineup now. So yeah, in the article I read, I didn't see they got Harris as well. So I have Phoenix with Copper. I thought Harris, so I'm probably wrong on Harris. They've got Alyssa Thomas, Satu Sabli, and Satu Sabli, Kalani Brown, and Uzon. Will Diana Taurasi return? Nobody knows. That will be the interesting question. So, of all of these, I know I can tell what the Mercury are trying to do, and I don't mind it too much. I don't know if it'll work or not, but you get Thomas, a bully of a power forward who can't shoot, and you combine her with Sably, who can shoot and more of a perimeter four. So you let Thomas do the rough stuff inside and her the rough stuff. They that's a good yin and yang at your 4 and 5. So again, I'm not sure about Harris. I didn't see that in the one I read, but you might be right if they did get her. So yeah, we'll assume that Harris, yeah, is going to Dallas. So, but you've got Copper, you've got Thomas, you've got Sably, and you've got Uzon backing up, and then you've got potentially Tarasi. I mean, I don't mind it. Now, Darren Vance, you have to look at the Fever's moves today as a whole. They got rid of Smith and they acquired Cunningham and Howard, and they still have money left for potentially another max contract. That's an A plus. Yeah, but who's out there to put on your roster? What free agent are you thinking? Like the only one I can think of is maybe the girl from Atlanta, the big. She has a hyphen name, but with what they got, Vance, I just don't see it. I don't see how they're going to remake their roster not to be a sieve on defense. That was their whole issue last year. I mean, I like offense. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, that's the problem I see with Indy. I don't see how they're gonna improve their defense, and that's maybe White is the defensive. She can do a better job than the Dallas coach did as the defensive guru. If she can figure them out on defense, great. But I don't see where their perimeter defense is going to be. Robert Sanders, hello. Phoenix has no draft picks. Interested to see them this year totally retool the roster with Copper, Sabali, and Thomas. Yeah, oh, that's what I was going to say. Good point, Robert. Yeah, you would think Bonner would come, and if Bonner comes, yeah, I was thinking of that before I got on here. I just totally forgot. So you could have Copper and Bonner and Thomas. That's a little bit nasty right there. And then I think Uzon's all right. You've got Tarasi. That's fine, and you can speculate with guards. You'll be able to find a few more guards, and they have space. So out of this trade, yeah, I'm giving Phoenix. Yeah, Phoenix won this trade in my opinion. They'll roll the dice. Maybe Tarasi will come back for 1 year, see what happens, get through free agency, and then reassess where they're at. And then they control their draft picks after that, and then they can go tank. Chicago's a loser in this once again because it does indeed look like Phoenix is going to be good, and Chicago has the swap rights for the Phoenix pick. It's part of the deal for with the Sun. The Sun had Phoenix's pick, and the swap rights with Phoenix's pick, they gave that in the Mabry trade to Chicago. So Chicago was hoping that Phoenix would be terrible. That ain't going to happen. Doesn't look like. Yeah. Vance Howard has been Defensive Player of the Year in the past, and Sophie Cunningham is much better on defense than Smith. Why? I don't. Vance, me and you are going to have to agree to disagree. Howard is 33. She played on Dallas and they were terrible. And I would agree. You could make the argument, you probably will in the next comment, that she's bad because she had McCowan there and as well Kalani Brown. But I just don't think she's going to be the defensive problem solver and be much better than Smith was. And I don't think she'll be much better than Fag Binlay. Not sure why they didn't bring What about now? Can you hear me now? Any sound now? God damn. All right. You can hear me now. You can hear me now. Oh my God. Okay. All right. You can hear me. I'm not going to touch anything. I don't know what I did to fix that. I'm sorry, guys. I really am. Okay. That's terrible. Okay. I'm not touching a darn thing. All right. Okay. Let me just see what I have up here. All right. Where were we at? I totally lost my concentration. Where are we at? Uh, what was I talking about? I can't even remember now. I'm so flustered. So, okay. So for me, what were we saying? Were we talking about the Mercury or what Dallas was doing? Let me go back through the comments. Hold on. Um, okay. Is Kennedy done in the WNBA? Yeah. I don't know where Kennedy goes. Can anybody think of a place where Kennedy would go? Yeah, everybody wants to blame sides. I was one of the few people that gave sides a break, so you won't like me on that. But I just don't think the defensive problem was Christie's sides last year. The defensive problem last year for the Fever was basically Caitlin Clark was terrible on defense, and that's no disrespect. All rookies are going to be terrible. Paige Beckers will be terrible. They're usually terrible. All rookies are terrible on defense, but as well, their personnel is just not right for defense. Yeah, I think Connecticut. That's the only one I can think of. But sometimes Connecticut is really big on culture, and we're going to try to bend. And if she's not in the WNBA, I agree with you. She's been blackballed. Like Kurt Miller wouldn't even give her a look. And then same thing with the new coach in Chicago. It slipped my Marsh. Marsh wouldn't even give her a look. I mean, all they had nothing to lose to bring in and say, "Hey, Kennedy, you're going to figure it out. You're going to move the ball. You're going to be a traditional point guard, move the ball around, and do this, this, and this for us." And didn't even get her a chance. So I'm just like, come on, give this girl a chance because her numbers were fine. She figured it out. I was happy with Kennedy because she said, "Hey, I can't shoot the three-pointer. I'm just going to take people off the dribble, get my shot." And she shot 50%. Her numbers were fine. But I don't know what was going on behind the scenes at Chicago. Chicago was a mess anyway, and I don't know if you can say that was Kennedy's fault, but man, they do not like her. Fever to headed to be a top three offense and bought yeah, Fever will be a fun watch. If I'm a season ticket holder, yeah, I want Fever's tickets because they're not going to play any defense, but man, they'll be fun on offense, I guess. But yeah, I don't see how that's going to work. I think they need more perimeter defense. And when I broke it down last year, all the top teams they could play defense. Like the upper echelon were like the obviously the Sun. Now they're going to go in the tank, but it was like the Sun, New York, and Minnesota. Their defense was off the chart, and that's what hurt the Vegas Aces. Is their defense regressed last year, and that I think that's why they had more of a tough time last year. Caitlin couldn't play much defense in college either. Yeah, well, didn't they play a lot of zone at Iowa as well? They rarely played man. Like I remember there was one play where I saw her get backdoored, and I was like, "Ooh, I should clip that and make fun of it," but I never did, you know. So yeah, it's funny. Caitlin has good PR. Caitlin, in a lot of ways, she's James Harden with good PR. Like people love Caitlin, but man, she definitely focused on her offense and definitely a lot of ISO with her. But I'm going to take a lot of incoming for that because you don't say anything about Caitlin Clark or the Caitlin Clark Mafia will come after you. Yeah, Kennedy looks like, yeah, I hear your comment. Kennedy looks like she's good at what she does, keeps on wearing out her welcome everywhere. There was interesting, I saw on the Chicago video, um, they were all talking about who's the funniest player on the Chicago Sky. And it was interesting. They were all saying Kennedy Carter. So, and that was like mid-season. And if I don't know. They didn't complain about her during the season. So I don't know. They just don't think she moves the ball well enough or what. But I'm just like, why not bring her in? If because Chicago is saying, hey, our culture was a mess last year. We're going to bring in Tyler Marsh and he's going to fix it all. Well, then fix it. Bring her in, read her the riot act. And then if Kennedy Carter doesn't play well, get rid of her. That's how you say, hey, we're cutting Kennedy. She didn't, live up to the standards of the Sky and our new culture. But just to cut her to get absolutely nothing and let her get a free agent. And then these other teams that are just dying for talent, they don't have the talent. They're not going to take her on just because they've heard bad stuff. I'm just like, man, come on. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh God, I keep on losing my screen. Um, let's see. The Sun can't afford to be a lottery team next season since the Sky. Now, I think you're wrong about that. The Sky do not own their swap rights. The Sky own the swap rights to the my understanding is the Sky own the swap rights to their other pick. Their other pick they own is the Mercury's pick. So that's what they own the swap rights for. So uh, the Sun can tank as much as they want. They'll own their own pick. Really, the Sky, the swap rights that they have is with their swap rights are with the Mercury via the Sun. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Am I crazy, or do they allow more physical defense in the WNBA than the NBA? I felt like watching W somewhere. Yeah, I don't know if that's right or not. Like the NBA, I think a lot of times we just don't realize how physical the NBA is just because they're so big. Although I've got to tell you, I mean, because I do this YouTube channel now and stuff, I hardly ever watch the NBA. And when I do watch the NBA, I look at them like, oh my God, these guys are monsters out there. How big are they? Like, because I haven't watched it in so long. I just come away shaking my head. I truly believe that the NBA has outgrown the court. Like, everybody says, oh, lower the rim for the WNBA. I'm like, no, don't lower the rim, raise the rim for the NBA and increase the size of the court. Like they're just giants playing on this little court. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, Connecticut. Let's see, what do we got here? All the comments here. Let's go. Um, yeah, Connecticut is joining the tanking battle. You better believe it. And I was gonna do a video and be a smart ass because everybody was saying about how bad the Sun got taken on the trade with the Mercury and how terrible it is. If you know what you're doing in life, it's a damn good thing. And in a lot of ways, the Sun know they're in trouble. Like they don't have a good facility. Well, then tank your butt off. Tank your butt off. Get picks. You control them for 4 or 5 years. Well, you control them essentially for 5 years. So tank, rebuild, and then figure out if somebody's going to buy you or what, or you'll get a new facility or whatever you can do. But that's your best option at this stage because you're not going to get a free agent. And that core you have, do you really want a grumpy Alyssa Thomas just bitching the whole season about how bad your facilities are and everything else? No, no. Tank your butt off. Bring Kennedy Carter in there. Have a fun little show, and hopefully Connecticut fans will support it. WNBA is body checking. Look at Carrington. The great defense play was constantly reaching over and swatting the ball. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, yeah, it's more physical. Well, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. Let's see, what do we have? Uh, let's see. Except if you're a rookie, Cam Brink, they called every little touch she made. Yeah, Brink's a fouler. I'm sorry. Son getting Juju or Hannah soon. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I would take my butt off, and I would already start planning for it because you have to have your record be bad because it's the cumulative record over the 2 years essentially. So yeah, get your record down right now, and here we go. Yeah, that's exactly what I would be doing if I was these guys for sure. Let's see, what's the next one? Uh, Robert's there. We'll never know what happened to the Sky locker room in the past season if Kennedy was a big part of the issue. But it does feel like the Sky front office has scapegoated Kennedy for the reason. The other one is, yeah, she is definitely the scapegoat. Her and Weatherspoon. Like they bring in Weatherspoon, she didn't have any experience. That roster was trash, and she had them. I thought the Sky were going to be just total trash last year, and what saved their season was bringing in Kennedy Carter. So those two, in effect, saved their season because it was a terrible roster, and then yeah, they dump them to the curve. That's my feeling on it. And I'm sure Sky fan might feel a different way. Yeah, can you imagine that? And then I'll do videos. Will Juju go to the Sun or not? And Sun fan will be yelling at me, like Dallas fans are yelling at me about Paige Beckers. 2 years of being bad will be perfect. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing these teams don't understand. It's especially now with the expansion, it's going to be harder. But the last few years, the WNBA was made to tank. Like every team should have been tanking for Caitlin Clark. It's just God, you can hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, you can hear me. Okay, my God, I don't know what is going on with this, guys. I am so sorry. I don't know. Do y'all want me to persist or is this driving y'all crazy? I'm happy to persist, but let me go through the comments again. Oh God. I'm just gonna go through your comments because I love your questions. A lot of players want to win right before the CBA to raise their value. Probably why a lot of teams are tanking while they should be tanking hard. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they don't know what's gonna go on, but just nobody has any forethought. These organizations. It's like win for the next year, and the GMs half the time are trying to save their job. You hit on my key question about the Phoenix roster. What percentage of them will actually be healthy? That's the question with Phoenix because I assume Taurasi's coming back. She's never healthy as well. Bonner's been healthy the last few years, but yeah, that's the question with them. At least they traded Beck Allen. Like Beck Allen, I like Beck Allen, but she can never stay healthy. Satu is essentially for them to be good. Yeah, Satu needs to play well in that. And she had that 1 year at Dallas where she was great, but I don't know if she'll bring it. That's the question. Can she be that great? My understanding was bringing in Carter is what lost them Marina Mabry. I assume, Darren, you're talking about the Sky. That Yeah, I don't know what I just think I think it was the whole combination of the deal. Like supposedly Mabry says she's cool with Angel Reese. I don't know, and it wasn't the team that she came to. I agree with Mabry on this. She came to play for James Wade, and they just totally remade that team, almost like I likened it to like the bad boy Pistons. We're gonna win a rock fight, and that really wasn't her game. And I thought she was done when I saw. I pointed out in a video, but when they won the game up in Seattle, surprisingly, straight away, Kennedy and Angel Reese, and it just you could feel that Marino was out on the outer on that team. So, got to be careful when you ask out and go to another team. Yeah, you do. I mean, it's just come back to bite her. I had to laugh at Quita's video. Like Quita's like, oh, poor Marina Mabry, and I think she did like a moment of silence for her. You can tell she's a Sky fan, and I loved it. It's as close as you can get to her being mean. Now let's see, Darren, uh, saying Natasha Cloud didn't do anything, just the odd man out. Yeah, and I think they'll move Natasha Cloud. My question is, with Natasha Cloud, if I don't know if the contracts work, but would you trade if you were Minnesota? Would you trade Williams for Natasha Cloud? I think I might do that trade because I think the one weakness Minnesota had was Courtney Williams. I know they love Courtney Williams' personality and she's a go-getter and everything else, but if I was Cheryl Reeve, and I'm not here to doubt Cheryl Reeve, she's the one that knows it. I would be curious to see if they could get Natasha Cloud for her and maybe a draft pick. Or I don't know. Maybe they could throw in a draft pick, but I would like that one. Bonner is streaky, but she's long. She's a good 3 and D player. She's good, and somehow on that it's amazing on that Sun team. I don't know how they do it, but they run the back cut with Bonner with AT, and she always hits her with that back cut. Like she does a really nice back cut, and then she does a nice little reverse layup. Now I will tell you this: you probably don't even remember the game, but man, she the foul when she got the foul versus the Minnesota Lynx last year. I remember that. That was a ripoff. And Collier did not foul her on that play. Y'all probably don't even remember it. They don't have Bonner yet, do they? No, they don't, Vance. They haven't gotten Bonner, but I think everybody would speculate that's where she's going to go, just because that's where Alyssa Thomas is. But to be confirmed, Mabry had the worst luck with teams. Yeah, the one I didn't understand with Mabry was I didn't understand why Dallas got rid of Mabry. I thought that was a good fit. Like they weren't going to win the championship, but she and Ariki were buddies. when Ariki was out, she played really, really well, and I could sell that. But instead, they decided to double down and put all their money into McCowan. And McCowan just hasn't done anything for them, and she's a nightmare in pick and roll. It seems like ever since Dallas has been looking for a point guard or somebody that's dependable handling the ball. I know that's not Mabry's natural game, but I definitely would have caught. I definitely would have kept Mabry over McCowan because they had Kalani Brown as well. And then why they signed Nick Brown? Now they've gotten rid of Brown, obviously, but that never made sense to me. I'm a Lynx fan. Give me Cloud over Williams. Yeah, when we talk about streaky, um, that's another one that's streaky is Courtney Williams. She can win you a game and go off and crush you, and then she can lose you a game. Like I think it was in Game 5 of the WNBA final. She could have made one or two shots. One of those pull-up jumpers she always makes. She just couldn't hit those in that game. But then again, you live with her. She won you that game one y'all stole because she made the 3-point shot. Was it game one or game two? I can't remember. But yeah, I would take Cloud over her. Well, I think they've been quiet because they have everybody they need. Like the only thing they lost. Who did they lose to in the expansion draft? God, I forget her name. She's a Euro and she can shoot, and she's like she's almost like a carbon copy of the girl they kept. The one, God, I need to look at their lineup, but I can't remember who it is. But they lost the one player, and she didn't get a lot of time. And I think what Cheryl Miller is Cheryl Reeve. Her thought is Cheryl Reeve. She's thinking, I'm not going to give up Miller because she's exactly what we need. We need an athletic three for this team. I'm going to double. She might lose the bet, but she says, hey, Diamond Miller, let's give it one last chance and see what we can do. Yeah, Robert, McCowan's just a nightmare in pick and roll. Like, it's just so bad. She's awful in pick and roll, and she doesn't dominate enough on offense to justify how bad she is on defense. Uh, yeah, I never understood why Bibb was so desperate to get rid of Mabry. I would have kept Mabry in Dallas. And then after that, when she went to Dallas, but then I've got to give Bibb this. He totally ripped off Chicago. Why James Wade gave all that up for Marina Mabry, I'll never know. That ransom that he paid. I mean, that's got to be up there with one of the worst trades of all time. Zandalicini, thank you very much. Yeah, Zandalicini is a carbon copy of, oh God, I've forgotten the other one. Who's the one that started this year? She plays the three. She's good. Um, did she go to Minnesota as well? I can't remember what school she went to. Um, she seems like a nice kid. I can't remember, but Zandalicini was always backing up her, and I agree with them going Diamond Miller because Diamond Miller gives them more athleticism. Also, MV McPhee is coming back for revenge. Yeah, she almost had a career year. I think a lot of times, I said it in one of my videos, but um, Fee looked like Akeem Olajuwon with some of her post moves, the way she can just move there, and yeah, I could watch her game all day long. Um, yeah, don't give me, I'll get in trouble on that one, Darren. They got robbed. I'm with Cheryl Reeve on that one. I didn't even have any money on it, but yeah, I thought there was no call to be had there. That was a gift to the Liberty. I was so happy that Reeve went off in the post game interview. It was great. Sabrina and Stewart got lucky. Their reputation would have taken a severe hit if they lost again. Sabrina Moore caused at least Stewie during the Storm Years playoffs was a beast. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think Sabrina's Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me now? Now? Can y'all hear me now? It'll lag, but tell me. I think. Okay. Does anybody think that the hype around this year's women's college draft is overdone? Well, I think there are three players. This is what the problem is. And did it go out again? All right. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. Okay, sound is back. Yeah, with the draft, I think there are like three players. I think it's Miles, Kiki Arieffin, and Paige Beckers, and then after that, it's just a lottery of who can make it. I think that's pretty much the case every year. Somebody might break through. If I was going to have a dark horse, it might be Barker. I say, like, I think Barker's athletic. Her shot's previously been good, and I think maybe, she could get it back. Now, right when you were saying something interesting about Sabrina and the sound cut off, was it Sabrina who? Let's see. What was I saying about Sabrina? Was I talking about how I thought? I'm not sure what I was saying. Sabrina Ionescu? Let me know. Anyway, Dominique Monlet may be the second most interesting prospect. I want to see what she can do. Me too. I want to see what Malungala can do. I wonder. Yeah, that's my question as well. Is it one of those where she comes and she's just too raw and will struggle for 3 or 4 years and I give up on her, and then eventually she develops, or is she ready to go when she comes out? Lower than recommended. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions? Am I still? Does the sound still there? If regarding the draft, I think what's worrisome is I think the draft next year. Well, I guess there'll be Lauren Betts. Betts will be in next year's draft, but other than next year, that's the only person I see in the draft that's really interesting. Um, yeah, I mean the thing with the Europe players, they can all shoot. That's the thing. Some of yeah, I don't mean to. Um, Morrow, I know some love Morrow, and it seems like I'm kicking her in I'm always kicking her down, but I just don't trust her because she can't shoot. So, and you know, the after, but in after those three core players like Beckers and Kiki and Miles, it's all it's all a lottery, like you say. So take your chance and see it. And you could make the argument, hey, the LA Sparks traded their pick. What's the big deal? And in my opinion, they have a chance to get a core player. If you can get a core player the way the contracts are set up, that the contracts are so awful in the first 4 years for the players, that really gives the team flexibility. So if you're gonna tank, that's the chance to take your chance, almost like how Philadelphia did with the process on the men's side. What do people think fee would be during the 2000 draft? Like a lot of college athletes don't work out just because they're good in college. Like Kelly, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there were concerns about fee shot. Maybe I really didn't follow UConn much back then. What was she like at UConn? Was she a shooter or was she just inside? I remember seeing her on a podcast saying how Gino always used to just get on her butt about rebounding and said that you can't rebound and you're awful. And yeah, but I don't know what her game was in college, to be quite honest with you. I need to go back and look at it because that was interesting on the Yukon eras thing. Like they did a whole thing on all the different eras. That one was very skipped over. There was not much on Samuelson, and there was not much on Fee. What do you think about Maddie Westbeld out of Notre Dame? Maddie Westbeld has a chance. Yeah, if she can hold up inside, yeah, I like Westbeld. I would take her potentially in the top five. Um, I think Barker's more athletic. I think Westbeld seems to have a more dependable shot. Yeah, that's it. How high is Westbeld 6'2"? That's my question. I think Westbeld is she 6'2" or 6'3"? That's it. Is she big enough to be a four? That would be the question. If not, then she needs to I could see her being one that would like lose weight and reshape her body like a Bridget Carlson and sort of turn into that sort of player. Who would you take though? If you had the pick there and Westbelt and Citron are on the board, which one do you go with? I think I'd probably take Citron. What do y'all take? I wonder. So Fee was a shooter at UConn. Yeah, I need to go back and look at that. Um, no, Vance, I can't see them. Well, I can actually see Paige Beckers. Not as impactful in terms of scoring. I think she would be more like Sabrina Ionescu. She can get the ball up, not make turnovers, and do what's required. With Sabrina Ionescu, listen, I'll say this. She's not spectacular, but you tell me who are the good point guards in the WNBA? Like in the WNBA, let's see. I would say Ionescu, and then I would say Gray in Vegas, and then who do you have after that? That's a really, really good point guard. Maybe Diggin Smith, but Diggin Smith sort of lost her shot. Point guard is a hard position to fill, and if you don't have a point guard that control things, then you're in trouble. Just ask Dallas how bad their season was, and look how willing Atlanta was to overpay to bring in Jordan Canada. Like they really, Canada had one good year, and Atlanta went all in on that. And we still don't know what the result is because she was out so long with her wrist and hand, like she was injured the whole. But that's why I would be bullish on if you think Paige Beckers or if you think Olivia Miles can be good point guards, that's who I would take because you need a good point guard, and oftentimes they're hard to find, especially like Paige because she has height on her. Like you can get a small point guard, but then in the WNBA they crush them on the mismatches. That's why I'm more bullish on Paige Beckers versus Olivia Miles. I don't want to get in that debate, but I think if you can find a 6 foot point guard, that's very valuable. So she's 6'3". Yeah, that's the question. Will she sort of need to remake her body like Carlson, Bridget Carlson, and sort of be like a three, like playing that forward spot? That would be my question. Citron over Westbelt, but most have Westbelt going in the second round. So do they really have Westbelt going in the second round? Yeah, I would. Yeah, I thought Westbelt would be a first rounder. I thought, like, what would you take? I guess Westbelt versus Barker. Um, I think I would go Barker just with athleticism, but I'd regret it. I'd get killed in a few years by Westbelt, and I'd regret it. I'd kick myself and say, "Yep, I knew I should have taken Westbelt," because Barker, Barker's that all airport team Dick Vitale used to talk about. Looks great in the airport. She'll flash a great play, but consistently, she didn't do it at Texas A&M. She's not impressing me too much at UCLA. And it's like, is she ever going to be putting it together all together? I never expect Paige to be like CC and be offensive machine, just expecting decent assist numbers and low turnovers. If she can shoot 45, 30, that would be fine. It's hard to be 100%, and that's what I think she should be. If she does that, she'll be fine. I agree with that. She's not CC. Every team needs a point guard like Raven Johnson, a pure playmaker. Yes, I like Raven. Just if she could make an outside shot more consistently, then Raven's on my team, because she passes first. Sometimes she's a little bit too rushed, Raven Johnson, in the transition. She's running at 11 where the rest of the team is 8, and she'll get a bad turnover. But other than that, if she could hit the three, 34%, then yeah, I'm drafting her in the first round. Sav has been changing her game to be more of a one than a two. Yeah, and I think yeah. Are you talking about Sabrina Ionescu? Who's Sab? Um, Paige just needs to unlearn some nonsense that was pushed at her at UConn, which is promoting older side. Well, I don't mind the older side. Like that sets you up well to be able to play without the ball. Nobody can do it anymore. Like it's all ISO, and we have to do this. If you can move the ball amongst three people and play pick and roll as well, she can play that with Sarah Armstrong. I would much rather go to UConn and develop my game off the ball and run their offense. I think that prepares them much better by all accounts. And it could be BS, it could be Vance, it could be BS, but by all accounts, all the WNBA coaches say we get a UConn player, we don't worry. Like they're well drilled, they know what they're doing, and we know what we're getting. Barker too much of an upswing for me to pass on Westbelt. Yeah, I hear you, Robert. I'm the same way. And then when Westbelt's better, you go like, oh my God, why did we take her? Christian, I agree. W seems like having your number one option being 4 or 5 more important. So having a pure point guard just passes is important. I agree with that. I think I mean, they're all important. It's like trying to figure out who the MVP is. But I think having a 5 or 4 that can shoot to stretch the floor and spread out the offense, that's important. I think having a good point guard, but that point guard needs to be able to low turnovers, put ball pressure, and ideally be able to hit the 3-pointer. That's what I want at my team. And then ideally, you would have a Diamond Miller that can guard anybody 1 through 4 and can just lock down people. If I was putting my dream team together, that's what it would be. And that's what I think Cheryl Miller, I keep on saying Cheryl Miller. That's why Cheryl Reeve hasn't given up on Diamond Miller. She envisions her of, hey, she'll be able to, and I don't know if her knees are good. That's the only way with her, but she'll be able to shut down any player 1 through 5. She can switch on anybody and be that dynamic player, and that's why she protected her for the expansion draft. What's the concerning injury? Like an ACL is not a concerning injury. Like I don't fans. I mean, Olivia Miles has an ACL injury. Every women's basketball and their dog um, has an ACL. I don't worry about ACL. They do it. She might get another ACL in the future. Who knows? That's just it's almost like saying, the Major League Baseball pitcher has an elbow injury. They all have elbow injuries. They get the Tommy John surgery in their back. It's a lot the same way. I think Paige had the ACL. The more concerning one was when she had the plateau fracture on the right knee. It sort of showed her hypermobility. Like she's a very flexible person, which predisposes you to those more injuries. I would agree with that, but I do think she's done a lot of work on her body and strengthened it up, and hopefully that makes her less injury prone. But yeah, she's really flexible. Clay Thompson in his prime will tell you about playing off the ball. He will, and that's why I'm not rubbishing Caitlin Clark. That's one thing. I don't think Caitlin Clark plays great defense, but much like Stephen Curry, the gravity that she takes and Curry takes opens everybody up. So everybody has. Uh, there was a good thing where Paige Becker, not Paige Beckers, Tarasi and Sue Bird were drinking. And they were talking about how they played 1-on-1 and how Tarasi was crushing her inside, but Bird was taking her outside and shooting. And they were like, nobody can effing have it all. And that was their motto. Nobody can effing have it all. And that is so true. And I will drink to that. Nobody can have it all. And you know, you just take what you have and try to put it together. But for my team, I want a team that can pass the ball, have a whole bunch of shooters, and yeah, just if you've got to space it out a little bit. Sorry to hate Gino. I'm tired of listening to the Yukon brag show. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I know people, and you'll laugh at this, but when I initially got into YouTube, I was like, oh yeah, I did some, on UConn taking shots at Gino. And the more I watched him in press conferences, the more I got to like the guy. I got to tell you, just his philosophy and how he runs things and all of that, it makes sense to me. So I wanted to hate the guy, but I couldn't. It's funny because UConn teams always think UConn. I'm a UConn homer, but oftentimes UConn hates me on some of my videos because I like to analyze things, and sometimes I'll take shots at UConn. I take shots at everybody. Curious about the pay stats on the WNBA 2004. My stats for the WNBA stink. I'm sorry. I don't have. I need to find a place to get good stats for the WNBA. I haven't looked at it that way, but I need some, so I'm not talking out of my bum. I think the sooner people stop expecting players to play think the sooner people stop expecting players to play like CC, the better. The discourse will be about point guard prospects. I think so. I mean, you can call Caitlin Clark a point guard if you want, but man, she's just a playmaking guard. She's much like Kennedy Smith or Kennedy Carter with an outside shot. That's what she is. Gino lost his mojo. He famously was interviewed prior to last season and unequivocally said Caitlin Clark couldn't cut it in the WNBA. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. That's not what he said, Vance. And don't listen to the ones that cut the video. I saw the video basically. What he said was, and what he was doing was he was backing his girl Tarasi. So he was basically saying people that thought she was going to go in there and dominate are crazy and all of that. That's what he was saying. And basically, he was giving back up to Tarasi, who took the shots on the Final Four show and everything else. I don't have an issue with Tarasi as well. She's the old vet. She's not supposed to like the young buck coming for her stuff, and that's all Gino was doing. But this whole thing that Gino, said Caitlyn was going to be terrible. He didn't say that. And then the other thing with that is everybody's like, oh, he didn't recruit Caitlin Clark. And the reason he didn't recruit Caitlin Clark is because she was a sulker. And he's like, I don't want a sulker on my team. Nobody knew she was going to be that good. She was rated the number 4 prospect. Nobody knew Caitlin Clark was going to be Caitlin Clark. If they did, then he probably would have figured it out. But nobody knew that. Paige Beckers was the number 1 prospect, and she fits in perfectly with what UConn wants to do. Like she passes the ball, moves without the ball well. I'm sure Clark could have done that as well, but he'd already committed to Paige Beckers. And as he said, once I said Paige was my girl, you don't bring the other one in. Like two is not always better. Did you really want to see Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers on the same? Like I want to see that in an All-Star game, but I don't want to see them both playing at UConn because honestly, we wouldn't have figured out Caitlin Clark was as good as she is. So fans will say, "Oh, how terrible it is! Gino's disrespected Caitlin Clark." The best thing that ever happened to Caitlin Clark is UConn didn't recruit her. Uh, let's see. Well, she already left one college game this year, limping again though. She did advance, but with that, the girl took her leg out. Like I'm amazed she did not get, rupture her ACL on that the way it twisted. I think that's actually a good sign for Paige Beckers on that play. That the girl dove at her knee and she twisted it backwards, and I think she more got her ankle, and she's already back. So not too worried about that. Raven adding a consistent three would be crazy. So quick, always has her eyes up. Yeah, good. And reportedly, I haven't watched her. I haven't. Who's the girl for Florida State? I'm forgetting her name. I'm gonna say Lattimore. I know that's wrong. Is it Nati? God, I've forgotten her. Is it Lattimore for Florida State? She's developed a 3-point shot. She could always get by people, and now she has her 3-point shot. I'm gonna Can you hear me now? What about now? Can you hear me now? Is it back? Uh, what about now? Can you hear me? Hey, all right. Okay. You can't hear me? Okay, can hear? You can hear? Okay. All right. Where were we? We've seen an ACL crapshoot. Yeah, I agree with that. Ladston, I think she's a good player. She has a 3-point shot, and it's getting better and better. He was on the Dan Patrick show. That's exactly what he said. I watched the entire episode. I watched Dan Patrick semi-religiously. Yeah, he was on the Dan Patrick show, but what he was saying was that he didn't think that she would dominate. People that were expecting her to dominate straight away her freshman year, rookie year. That's what he said. Um, it wasn't like she'll never be any good, and she had a better year than he thought she would. So yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. Yeah, Chicago going back to Vandersloot. I don't know what Chicago's doing. Yeah, let's go back to the 33-year-old point guard. I guess they'll think, hey, she'll help mentor the team. Sorry, I've got a call. I should be muted. Hold on. Where were we at? Okay. ACL is a crapshoot. Let's see. Dan Patrick. Um, I see. I haven't looked at the class of 26 yet. I haven't looked at the class of 26 yet. So I'm going to start looking at that with Olivia. Oh God, that name's going to crush me. Y'all are going to crush me on that name when I try to say Voxa. Vuxa. I've seen her a little bit. She's a big, but yeah, I'll start looking at their class and who they're looking at getting. Uh, uh, who did I say has the wrong skill set for the WNBA? Yeah, again, I, I I'll go back and look at the Dan Patrick one again, Vance. I will. All right. I want to see it. All right. But from what I remember, I just seem to remember that he was going off on people saying that she was going to dominate the WNBA. And what I took from it was he was backing his girl to Rossi. But I'll watch it. I know the one you're talking about. Are you talking about the one where he said, "Hey, I remind Pate, I remind in it, he said, I remind Paige every day that, she'll be the greatest UConn player not to win a national championship. Like he torments her with that just to make her play better. Like, was that the same Dan Patrick one you're talking about? Because I'll go back and watch it. I don't remember him saying that Clark wouldn't be good or her skill set didn't fit the WNBA. Um, yeah, I agree. Yeah. I, like, the other thing with sees I mean she's just a different player, like the way she shoots and everything else. And initially she struggled, but really the best thing that happened was that break from the Olympics. Yeah, I think Agot McKeer, I think she'll go South Carolina. Yeah, that's if you were going to ask me to bet on it, I would put South Carolina because South Carolina hasn't gotten anybody yet. I see that, which is where she goes. um, and then but you never know with these kids. But I, I I don't she worries me a little bit. Just the makeup of her body. She's so long in the legs and stuff. Um, I don't have any injury history of her, but I just wonder how she's going to do long term with injuries and stuff like that. Her game or like her body worries me a little bit. Those really long, lean kids, but she looks pretty good. Yeah. Let's see. He said all wrong set for that was WNBA. Um, let me just see anything else that I've missed. The other one, I mean, I don't want this to be defending Gino, but I'm happy to say it. I don't think he's lost his mojo because I think it's an unfair the way they set it up that he's not winning national championship after every year. Well, yeah, she's got a good class and she's done great. Vance, yeah, 100%. Like she's doing really well. Have you ever said how you think Hannah? Yeah, people will hate me for that with Hannah Hidalgo. Yeah, the thing I laugh at with Hidalgo, I'll probably be wrong. She's been told her whole life she's too small, and I would be concerned about taking her just because of her height. But she'll probably prove me wrong. But I would be very nervous taking Hannah Hidalgo. And that said, she's a monster. I just don't know if she's that. Will it translate or not? I want to see it, but it's just so big and quick. And the history of small point guards. Yes, I know Ari McDonald has a roster spot, but she didn't dominate the way she did in college. And I just think it's very hard to be her height and dominate the way she does in the WNBA. She might be able to make a team and be short impact player, but she's not going to be able to play the minutes like she does at Notre Dame or dominate the way. And she might stick it in my face and prove me wrong. And if she does, fantastic for her. The way fans thinks these rookies will work in the league and be as good as Caitlin and beyond imagining. Yeah, I'd say so. Like she's just rare air the way that Clark can hit the three ball. I'll give you that. Yeah, I love Hannah as well. Like I love her game, and I love that she plays big when it's um, I love how she plays big in the big games. Like she came to play versus USC, she came to play versus Notre Dame and UConn. She just loves kicking ass. And the way I see it in I've made this up in my mind. I don't know if it's true, but I see her always playing with a chip on her shoulder because she's the small one, and people are always like me. Nobody's like me saying, she's not big enough to make it in the WNBA. And she's like, yeah, you don't think I'm big enough? Well, I'm gonna go shut this girl down who's 6'1", and that's what she does. So I understand the total chip on her shoulder, and I love it. Uh, NCAA fans are just major fans of their faves, so they expect too much. I agree with that. Like I think South Carolina fans thought Cook would would dominate in the WNBA, and it's just not going to be that way. It's different skill sets you need for the WNBA because they're all so big. Like the guards are all mostly around 5'10", 5'11", and the elite guards like Ryan Howard doesn't take good shots or anything, but she's 6'1". Jewel Lloyd, same thing. She's like 6'1", 6'2". It's just hard to get your shot off against those players, I think, if you're small. Yeah, I need to watch more of Maya Moore. I haven't seen a lot of Maya Moore. I've got to be honest. So yeah, I want to watch Maya Moore. I watched some during the Yukon series on when they went through their generations, and God, she has some nice moves. Um, any more questions? I do appreciate y'all sticking with me with all the technical issues. I really do appreciate it. Um, yeah, with South Carolina players, it's almost like Alabama running backs. Is that Alabama running back good because he's fast and everything else, or is it because the Alabama offensive line is mashing people and they're not getting hit until they're like 10 yards upfield? That's the one with them. Uh, yeah, yeah, I agree with all of that. In my opinion, Maya Moore is the best W. I need to watch more of it to be more informed, to be honest. I do, but I tell you, well, yeah, her with Cheryl Reeve, I do like that. So, what does any think is going on in Atlanta? The new coach has a style of running. That is the question. That is the question. Yeah, that's a good one, Vance. That is a damn good question. What is going on with Atlanta? They go with they send Wright away and then go with the guy from I think he's from Florida. That's the 3-point shooting guru, like from the Lynn Roberts school of hey, it's a three or nothing at the rim, and then they go straight away and they sign Griner. It's like, what are we doing here? I've got to laugh at that. Um, yeah, I think the GM Dan Padover. That's the final roll of the dice. I'm curious to see what happens. I think you might get 2 years out of this new coach if it doesn't work. I will give Padover this, and I gave him when they were firing coaches. At least he has the guts to do a press conference after he fired the coach. The Sparks didn't. Chicago didn't. Nobody else did. He was willing to face the media and said, "Yeah, we're going in a different direction. I've done it, and this is why." So I give him credit for that. But yeah, they're a mess. I don't know. Okay, I am done.